I live on the West Coast in big dirty city with bad air quality, USA. And one of the many special things about big dirty city with poor air quality, USA, is the incredible amount of dust that falls from the sky at all hours of the day. It's like snow, except it's black as tar and it doesn't ever melt. And because it doesn't melt, there's an awful lot of it piled up all around the city. There are these huge mounds on the street corners. And one day I got to thinking about the origin of all of these piles, as well as the thin coating of dust which coats virtually every flat surface I come across when I'm walking down the sidewalk. So naturally, I said to myself one day, I said, where on earth does all of this dust come from? And this is the question that's at the heart of today's video. So we're talking about where the dust comes from and how we are playing a game in which entropy reigns supreme. And what I'm talking about is that old quote. It is from the dust that we have emerged, and it is to the dust that we will return. All is chaos. And as humans, we know this. As humans, we understand this. Anyways, though, I wanted to know where all the dust was coming from, and what I eventually discovered horrified me. And I think it just might horrify you too, but I'll get to that in just a second. Generally speaking, dust consists of particles from a variety of sources, from soil lifted by the wind, from volcanic eruptions, from pollution, and so on and so forth. We know all about these boring reasons for the dust. There's no shortage of reasons for the dust that can be found on the internet, on Google, for example. But I'm not interested in these easily accessible reasons, because I think there's a much bigger issue here, an issue which I believe the multi-billion-dollar corporations that run the show and pull the strings are desperately trying to hide. But let me be more specific, because I have a point to make, a point some might consider radical. But first, allow me to set the stage. It is estimated that 50% of dust particles in the average household are of human origin, meaning skin cells. 50% of dust particles in the average household are parts of people. So where does the dust come from in your house? It comes from you, but not from just any old part or parts of you. It comes from the parts of you that are dead. And this brings me to the radical claim that this video is focused around. After an amount of time spent researching which no man, woman, or child under any circumstances could possibly consider insignificant, I have reason to believe that the primary cause of the dust which falls from the sky in big dirty city with poor air quality USA are the dead flakes of human flesh always being blown from our bodies by the wind. But allow me to pose a question. Is it possible that a not so insignificant amount of the dust falling from the sky owes its origin to the human body? And if so, what are the potential ramifications for my respiratory system? And maybe you're skeptical, but I hope you'll grant me just a little more time, just a few dozen more seconds, so that I might be able to communicate what could very well be the most pressing matter of our time, considering the sheer number of people whose lives and whose lungs are affected every day. So here's what I'm saying. If 50% of the dust in the average household owes its origin to the dead flakes of human flesh, imagine what the potential ramifications might be in a densely populated urban area that lacks any and all vegetation. Because, like I briefly mentioned earlier, there is no greenery, there is nothing here but concrete. The feet of men are separated from the soil by a wall of cement. And that's the whole city. It's a concrete jungle, as it were. More than 10 million people live in big dirty city with poor air quality USA, a number which many academically qualified experts insist can be neither conceptualized nor comprehended by something as simple as the human mind. What I mean is, what does 10 million of anything really look like? I'm not talking grains of sand in a pile. I mean, what does 10 million really look like? I don't even know what 10 million of any object would look like, let alone what the collective effects of 10 million things things, say human beings, might look like. And I would say most, if not all, people don't. Because 10 million is a number so big that most of the time it doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you all of this from the jump. The rest of these people will not. But let's be honest, isn't it wonderful to have our attention captivated, even if only for a few minutes? Isn't it nice to enjoy something just enough to be essentially put to sleep while our eyes remain open, regardless of how brief? And what does this mean? What am I saying? It means answers don't matter if we're talking about what keeps our feet moving forward. What does 10 million look like? Are the black bits which fall from the sky the parts of men that have already returned to dust? What's important is where the questions take our imagination. What it is that usually captures our attention is something bad. And maybe that's because being bad is so much easier than being good. That's a truth as old as the human species, and one that I cannot talk at greater lengths about on account of my desire to keep this video short-ish. So it's something bad that captures our attention, and it's usually so difficult to measure that the answer either A, doesn't matter, or B, is refutable enough to justify a belief that leans in either direction. Whether you believe that the alleged potential effects which inhaling dead skin particles might have on the swelling citizenry of the densely populated metropolitan area that is big, dirty city with poor air quality, USA, whether you believe those alleged potential effects of dead skin particles are real or not, it isn't the answers that keep your wheels turning. It's the questions and their imagined implications. Thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.